President Trump set to face new pushback on climate changes as he travels to the G20 summit next week. German Chancellor Angela Merkel will be leading the charge following the president's decision to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. The chancellor saying we can't and we won't wait until the last person on Earth is convinced of the scientific evidence for climate change. I'm joined now by EPA Secretary Scott Pruitt. Good to see you this morning, Mr. Secretary.
Well, good morning.
What do you make of that? I mean, they're going to see each other face to face. She's made no secret of how she feels and the need to push the U.S. on this accord.
What's so interesting, if you go back to when we exited Kyoto in 2001 and read accounts then by the German Chancellor, they're identical to today. I mean, Europe wants the United States to stay in agreements like the Paris Accord because it puts us at an economic disadvantage. And when you look at what we've done already in this country to reduce our CO2 footprint, we're at pre-1994 levels today. From 2000 to 2014, after we exited Kyoto, we reduced the carbon footprint by over 18%. So we've led through action, not words, not just simply those kind of labels that are used. The Paris Agreement was simply a bad deal for this country. The president has said we're going to continue engagement. We're going to continue leading on reduction of CO2, but we're not going to agree to situations like the Paris Accord that put us at an economic disadvantage as compared to the rest of the world. People forget that India conditioned all of their obligations under the Paris Accord upon receiving $2.5 trillion. They weren't going to take any steps until they received that. China didn't have to take any steps until 2030. And so when you look at those kinds, if we're really serious about reducing CO2, look at what America has done and follow our lead.
Would the administration sign on to or agree to a different type of Paris Climate Agreement? Is there room for renegotiation or something?
I mean, I think the president said that engagement is going to continue. We're going to continue leading through action. And as far as international discussions, international agreements, if they reflect an America First strategy and actually do something positive for the environment, people forget. If you go back to when the Paris Accord was signed, there was tremendous criticism on the left with respect to what occurred there because they felt like that China and India and other nations skated. I mean, we were the country that took steps to put billions of dollars into the Green Climate Fund. China put zero. Russia put zero. India put zero. You know, so that accord really isn't what people are thinking it is today. They have a short memory as relates to results.
Facts matter when we're talking about these things. All right, you also have taken the first step towards rolling back a regulation, a federal regulation that was very widespread, wide-ranging, and it was increased, the reach of it under the Obama administration, dealing with regulation of waters of the United States. People call it WOTUS for short. Wonky weirdos like us call it that. But I covered cases, and you know, at the state level, very familiar with this as well, where we're talking about standing rain puddles on people's property or streams that resulted after a big storm. There was an argument over whether the government could come in and regulate your property based on that kind of standing water.
That's right. What does that impact as well? Land use. You know, private property owners using their land to build subdivisions, oil and gas, farming and ranching, because they don't know whether EPA jurisdiction, federal jurisdiction extends to their activity. So they're facing thousands and tens of thousands of dollars of fines just by using their own property because the EPA got the definition wrong. How do we know they got it wrong? The Sixth Circuit said so. They issued a stay against the WOTUS rule that you referred to. So what we're in the process of doing is getting it right. As part of Energy Week this week, I signed a proposed rule to withdraw the WOTUS definition from 2015, and we're going to focus this fall on getting the definition right.
You know you have critics, and among them is the Natural Resources Defense Council president. She says this: the proposal strikes directly at public health. It would strip out needed protections for the streams that feed drinking water sources for 1 in every 3 Americans. She called it a reckless attack on our waters and our health.
Yes, well, look, dry creek beds, puddles, and drainage ditches don't apply under the Clean Water Act. So the only authority that we have under the Clean Water Act is the authority Congress gives us. And historically, as you know, that's navigable streams and waters, interstate commerce clause, the Constitution. The thought that the EPA has jurisdiction over dry creek beds and puddles across this country is what's wrong with the previous administration. We're going to get it right going forward, making sure that we regulate water. We regulate the waters that Congress has told us that we should regulate, and we're going to partner with states to ensure safe drinking water.
And so people understand this is just a part of a multi-pronged process. And as you said, you're not going to leave waters completely unregulated, but this one a lot of folks thought went too far.
And created uncertainty.
It did for a lot of landowners and farmers, for sure.
That's right.
Secretary, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Thanks for coming in.